Let us now bring in Kayleigh McEnany, former White House press secretary. Kayleigh, first of all, once again, that phrase that the president just used, that the mission was an extraordinary success, one of the worst exits ever in the history of military warfare, certainly one of the worst in U.S. history. What do you think of what he said?
Yeah, look, it was one thing for his press secretary to say this is a success 2 days before 13 Americans died. That was even questionable then because we had seen Afghans hanging from planes. But to double down on that, I mean, you hit the nail on the head by pinpointing that. It's really callous. It's cruel because not only have Afghans hung from planes, women, mothers have put their babies over fences, willing to depart forever with their child just so their child would have a life outside the Taliban. 13 heroes, men and women, our servicemen and women, killed in that suicide bomber attack. Americans stranded, Afghan allies stranded, left for dead quite literally. And now you have the National Security Advisor saying, hey, all you Americans there, we'll email you when it's your time to leave. This is anything but a success. And to see a, quote, commander-in-chief use that terminology in the wake of all this devastation, it's callous, it's cruel, it's unbecoming of anyone who holds the title President of the United States.
By the way, one of the Afghans who was stranded is apparently somebody who came to the rescue of none other than Joe Biden back in 2008, an Afghan interpreter. I think we have a picture we can put up. It does not show the interpreter. The picture shows, there we can see it. John Kerry is there. There were a number of Americans who were on that mission that they had to survey the battlefield in Afghanistan. The helicopter they were in came down because of the snow, because of the bad weather. And an Afghan interpreter who is now fighting for his life, stranded behind enemy territory, is putting out desperate calls to the White House to rescue him. I mean, it just shows you the kind of callousness that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, and Joe Biden had fooled a lot of people, making people think he was compassionate. We saw a whole new Joe Biden during that ABC interview when asked about those Afghans whose remains were found in the wheel of the plane, by the way. When asked about those Afghans, he said that was 4 or 5 days ago. He said no one's being killed. That was not true. And now to learn that the interpreter who saved none other than then Senator Joe Biden was left behind and is desperately making a plea for his safety has now been left behind, along with many others, including a 3-year-old American United States citizen, young boy out of California, who is now stranded, along with many others. This president, I'm sorry to say it, it pains me to say it, but is anything but compassionate.
By the way, your old boss, Donald Trump, was on Stuart Varney's show this morning. Here's what he said he wanted to hear from President Biden. Listen.
I think the best thing he can do is apologize to the American people and apologize to the world. He ought to apologize and stop trying to, excuse the language, everybody into thinking that what he did was good.
There was no apology. Instead, you have this rhetoric that the mission was an extraordinary success, a mission that leaves Americans behind, in contradiction to one of the most tried and true policies that we've ever had in American history. You don't leave Americans behind, and of course, leaving all the equipment there, and the awful occurrence of that horrible terrorist attack, partly because of the fact that we trusted the Taliban.
Right. There was zero apology. There was not an ounce of contrition. There was not a single iota of accountability. I mean, this is from someone who said it's highly unlikely the Taliban will take over Afghanistan. They did. Someone saying no one's being killed. Many were. Someone saying we will not leave a single American or Afghan ally behind. Many, many, many. Anywhere between 100, 200 Americans left behind. Likely thousands of Afghan allies left behind as well. And not 1 ounce at all of accountability. This is from a president who we now know from much reporting has remained stubborn and resolute in his way, contrary to what the intelligence was saying, and I believe contrary to likely what many of his advisors were saying as well.
Another amazing thing that we've seen over the past couple of weeks are these press briefings from the Defense Department, from the White House, and from the State Department of totally contradictory statements. You had Jen Psaki, your successor at the White House, wagging her finger at our own Peter Doocy for saying that Americans were stranded. She said it was an insult to use that word. Well, in fact, then you have the Defense Department coming out and saying they were stranded. So, I mean, you get all these contradictory statements. Americans' heads are spinning right now.
totally in contradiction. I mean, what is it? Are they stranded, or is it the norm to be stranded, as the Pentagon told us? Diametric opposite statements there. But overall, I would say this. Look, there are moments when a press secretary speaks, and there are moments when a president speaks. In this moment, this place, and this time, when we've withdrawn from a 20-year war, leaving Americans behind, something that we do not do as a country, this is a moment for a president to speak. And as I speak, a press secretary is speaking, not a president. And that's the real travesty here. I can tell you, if I was in the White House right now, I'd not be at that podium. President Donald J. Trump would be.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. Kayleigh McEnany, good to see you. Thank you very much for being here.